relentlessly in the direction of success. A better existence was going to be ours. Am I wrong to think we delighted in living there? No delusions are more familiar than those inspired in the elderly by nostalgia. But am I completely mistaken to think that living as well-born children in Renaissance Florence could not have held a candle to growing up within aromatic range of Tabachnik's pickle barrels? Am I mistaken to think that even back then, in the vivid present, the fullness of life stirred our emotions to an extraordinary extent? Has anywhere since so engrossed you in its ocean of details? The detail, the immensity of the detail, the force of the detail, the weight of the detail, the rich endlessness of detail surrounding you in your young life, like the 6 feet of dirt that'll be packed on your grave when you're dead. Philip spent his final 3 weeks in the cardiac intensive care unit at New York Presbyterian Hospital. A lot of women and a smattering of men surrounded him. We were friends, lovers, protégés, relatives, employees, representing every decade of his adult life. This I know. When my time comes, the waiting room will not be crowded with ex-lovers. On the 21st day, the attendant came out of Philip's room and said, "He is philosopher, no?" "Yes," I said. And so it really was. Amid the general weeping, Philip was Socratic, as if instructing us, his loved ones, in how to die. He even remembered, like Socrates, a small debt owed to Mrs. Solano, his housekeeper. Near the end, he asked for a moment alone with me and said something I wrote down as soon as I decently could. "I have been to see the great enemy and walked around him and talked to him, and he is not to be feared. I promise." There had been earlier brushes with the great enemy, any one of which might have proved fatal. One occurred on August 22, 2012. Canadian geese were starting south. We'd gone to Litchfield for dinner and dressed up a bit for the occasion. Philip was in a sports jacket he claimed to have bought with the earnings from Goodbye Columbus. It may nearly have been so. He cared nothing for clothes. Seated in our usual booth at the West Street Grill, we ordered the special soup, their gazpacho, sweet and crunchy, with the local beefsteaks and cucumbers. I had a baseball question on the tip of my tongue. What was the name of the natural, the player shot by a lady stalker in a Chicago hotel room? He gave me an amused look that darkened into puzzlement, then fear. Then he pitched forward into the soup, unconscious. Too astounded for anything but composure, I summoned the management. Medics appeared almost immediately. As if by further magic, a stretcher sprang up from the floor to receive him, who, though all but comatose, was saying something, an attempt entirely characteristic at telling the medics how to do their job. Moments later, I was in the front seat of the ambulance beside the driver, with Philip and the 2 medics behind us. "Thready pulse," said one to the other, and then to the driver, "Better turn on the siren." I thought, here is how it ends, and considered whom I would contact first. Thomas Mann's Aschenbach in the last line of Death in Venice came to mind, proving literature matters even in an emergency. "Before nightfall," writes Mann, "a shocked and respectful world received the news of his decease." Philip had equipped several of us with detailed instructions on how every aspect of his burial and memorial service should be handled. My mind veered to these. 20 minutes after our arrival at Charlotte Hungerford Hospital in Torrington, the ER physician explained that what Philip had suffered was an accumulated reaction to one of the drugs he'd been taking. When I entered the examining room, Philip said, "No more books." At first I didn't know what he meant. What he meant, I shortly realized, was that Nemesis, his 31st, published 2 years earlier,